Let's Talk Call-In Radio. Yes, indeed. That lovely theme music means it's Thursday, 11 a.m., and here we are again in the Studio A at KWMR. And this is Let's Talk, and I'm Paul Raffel. Joining me in the studio, Charles Schultz.
Hello, Paul.
And Stephen Hurwitz.
Hello.
And Shelley is again not with us again today, but I hope everything's going well there. So, and today, our topic that we want people to call in. Oh, I should read the
663-8492. Do give us a call and give us your opinion on universal basic income.
Yeah, so you know what this show's about. We talk about topics. We talk about it here, but what we really want to know is what our listeners think. So don't be afraid. Call in. And when you call in, 415-663-8492 or 8317, you will hear the phone ringing. Just hang on, and you'll hear a little noise as I patch you in the system, and you'll hear us all talking. But when you hear me say you're on the air, please give us your first name, turn down your radio, and please watch your language. What's your language, Stephen?
I felt that firsthand.
So today, I thought we'd talk about universal basic income. What does it mean?
Well, this is the idea that the state is going to provide every citizen a certain amount of money every year? Is that?
Well, usually they talk about it being a monthly payment.
Okay.
To all citizens, in some iterations of it, all citizens regardless of their income.
Lovely.
So everyone gets the same check, whether they're rich or poor. But the idea of it, of course, is it's supposed to bring everyone above the poverty level line, at least to pay for some of their necessities of life, so that they don't have to worry about perhaps where they're going to sleep tonight, or perhaps if they can get any food at all, and they can devote themselves to doing what they need to do to survive. Maybe that's just sitting around doing art. Maybe it's doing radio shows. Maybe it's looking for employment that suits them rather than the current welfare system, current employment system.
Waxing my car.
Waxing your car.
You're going to have somebody wax your car, or you're going to do it yourself?
I'm going to do it myself.
So what do you think about universal basic income? Because I have so many opinions on this, I'm consciously trying to suppress them. What do you think, Stephen?
I think that in theory it's a good idea.
In theory, it's a good idea.
I see I see many positives and I see some negatives.
What would the negatives be?
Oh, you're going right to the negative?
Oh, yes. Charles's opinion today will be expressed through Stephen. So what are the negatives, Stephen? Read from the piece of paper I gave you.
He's channeling me. Or I'm channeling him. Well, I see that the cost of living in different parts of the country is different. So your money in Ohio will go a lot further than your money in the Bay Area if everyone gets the same amount of
so it's
payment.
A question of who sets. Alaska already has a version of this, right?
Right.
You know?
That's because they have
oil,
a huge
and
oil.
Gold and all that.
Sure, so they get a payment every year. It's an annual payment in the case of Alaska, and it varies depending on the price of oil. But the Alaska pipeline. We have, in our own community, a great devotee of this concept. His name is Peter Barnes. You've probably never heard of him.
Yes, he is on the list of people who support it. Yeah, that's right.
So let's have a call. 415-663-8492.
Yes, what do you think, listeners? I mean, if we gave poor people money, would they just fritter it away on booze and cigarettes?
I certainly hope so.
Would they, it's poor people's fault that they're poor.
They've actually had studies on that. They've actually had studies.
They have.
They found out. And they do not fritter away their money.
Not, in large part, yeah.
By the way, Peter Barnes is getting a massage right now in the forestry building. I think we could go and get him off the massage table and bring him down here to give us some very relaxed opinions. Well, so what do you think, Paul?
To lower that a little bit down closer. Yeah.
So what do you think, Paul?
I think it's going to be inevitable, actually, because we're showing, although our birth rate is decreasing, just because there are so many people in the world, our population is growing exponentially, and automation. Artificial intelligence and automation is going to take over most jobs.
Well, he says the birth rate is falling, but what about all those redheads in French Polynesia that just appeared in the 1970s and 80s?
They're very fertile.
I think the negative. I see. I'm going to shock the listeners. I see the negative side of this, which is that the various critics of universal basic income, because it's very popular in Silicon Valley, would say
Milton Friedman likes it.
Oh gosh, old Uncle Milty used to live in Carmel. Used to live right up the coast from us. Is that they want to figure out? I mean, their ideal world is where you're clicking and buying all day, every day, and having people on the couch just glued to apps and devices and clicking and making purchases is ideal. And so, with the decline of incomes and wealth in this country, it becomes a problem for the business model. But I don't really think of that as being a kind of great vision for the future. So Paul presented the positive.
So your opinion is that if you give people like $1,000 a month, is what a lot of people are talking about.
That'd be great.
That all they'll do is sit there and click on Facebook all day.
I'm saying
what you're saying.
One of the
because poor people are like that.
Well, one of the criticisms is that Silicon Valley. This is a consummation devoutly to be wished on the part of Silicon Valley. Not that is what would happen, but that would be one of the reasons to do it. And there have been experiments with this too. One of his first jobs in American government, in the executive branch anyway, a young Donald Rumsfeld ran experiments on providing universal basic income in pilot programs that were actually conducted in New Jersey, and they were very positive. And back then, even the right of the American political spectrum, which Donnie is certainly on, were looking at, and this is the late 1960s, it's the Nixon administration, were looking at what was going to happen when the country deindustrializes, because the signs were already there, that the factory jobs are going away.
Interestingly enough, the right and the left have agreement on this, which is...
it's creepy to me. The statist right and the statist left do. So the ultimate problem with this is if you put the whole country on government-sponsored life support, what happens when the government wants to do really terrible things? And they say, well, we could do something
We can take it away.
We could take it away. Well, if we don't have this war, we'll have to reduce the payment. If we do something about climate change, we'll have to reduce the payment. So there's some testing of this. Well, I mean, there's what I think is the...
Well, they already can do that.
What's preventing them from doing that now? They're going to abolish... They want to abolish social security. Mm-hmm. They want to abolish all welfare programs. So, what's the difference?
Right, and replace. I think that's what the right likes about it. They want it centralized. Like you were saying, they want to centralize it.
I'll give you an example. So in Alaska, this happened, right? So in Alaska, you get an annual payment based on the Alaska pipeline and the price of oil, right? Yeah. So in the 80s, they wanted to increase funding for their schools. What they were doing, because of the very low taxation in Alaska, was not being able to fund schools properly. So the governor said, "Look, can we take some of this Alaska pipeline money?" And redirect it to schools, and they put it to a vote, and it was overwhelmingly voted down. Why? Because people said, no, I want my money, not I don't care what's going on in these schools. Mm-hmm. So it creates this problem in which I think if you had a benevolent dictator who was good and a nice president, then, if that exists, it doesn't exist. But if it did exist, then you could see all the positive things, which is, as Paul points out, what if you could spend time gardening? What if you could spend time reading, making art, whatever it might be? That is ideal, and I think that we could try and construct a society and economy that
how anybody
gets closer
could
to
just
that.
extrapolate that having that extra dough is they're all going to just become creative or something like
No,
that.
I don't think they will.
Well, it's
can't even imagine.
certainly for starving artists, it would certainly be a boon.
Yeah,
The quintessential starving artist who doesn't want to go and work at McDonald's, for instance, and can afford to live on $1,000 a month.
Well,
It would give them time to do their work,
and
in a perfect world.
So the market has
No,
taken
yeah.
over so much of our world, in which artists and writers and all of these things now have to produce things that are going to please a marketplace, because if they don't, they can't support themselves. And this is an unconscious process for a lot of people. I mean, maybe most people. They're not realizing that they're actually just an arm of Madison Avenue.
I don't like the idea that everyone gets the payment. I think that
You should decide?
I think that it's much more important in terms of supporting than for people who fall into the category of very low income earners. We call them the poor, or whatever you want to call them. I think that it's more, it's a greater aid to them. And the guy that's making $60,000 a year and is going to get an extra, 10,
12,000.
yeah, that person doesn't. That doesn't need it. It's not going to materially change their life and support.
No.
Well, it's interesting you picked this
Yeah,
up.
they wanna give
But it
them-
will change people who are on the other end, right?
Yes, of course. But where did this idea of giving everybody this check come from?
Well, it's I don't know
It's an
where they
old
come from.
idea.
Thomas Paine.
They keep saying Thomas.
Well, yeah, he
Paine.
was the first one to actually say this is what we need in America, in our growing country, to keep poverty at bay. We need to pay out money to help people.
Sure.
To pay for the basics so that they can live their lives and make this country better, right? I mean, that's what it was all about. It was so that they had enough time left over from their drudgery that they could actually go out and do other things and create business or whatever. I don't know.
Well, sure. I mean, and then you could say that certainly, Marx mused on this, the idea that in the future, when communism is achieved, then we'll garden in the morning and write poetry in the afternoon and sing and dance at night, or whatever
Right.
his ideas. So it sounds very pleasant. I think that it's funny you used the number 60,000. I know I just picked that out of the air, but low income, at the designation of low income in Marin County as a function of housing costs, it starts at $102,000 a year of income and below. To be a homeowner in Marin County, you have to have a median household income of $247,000 a year.
I know you like to localize our discussions, but let's broaden it.
But
Really talk about
$60,000 in
national-
Sandusky
Let's
is something
talk-
else. But I mean, that's the point you raised, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's different in different places.
Yeah, I think so. I think that different parts of the
Sure.
country have different costs of living.
Well, yeah,
So the
1,000,
amount of money, here, like you said, it's not worth much. But we don't have poor people in this county.
Well, we do, but they're invisible. but of course, it's
Yes,
the
I
definition
think
of
we do.
poverty. I mean, if you're talking about housing insecurity and food insecurity, we have a food bank in Point Reyes, we have a food bank in Tamales. There are a lot of really insecure people, and throughout the Bay Area.
No.
Anyway, right.
I think the whole Bay Area is off the charts in terms of cost of living.
yeah.
Compared to
Absolutely.
go back to Sandusky. It's totally different.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So $1,000 a month in Sandusky is a totally different beast
Yes,
than
of
it
course.
is here.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month here. What will it pay? It won't even.
$12,000 a year. That won't pay rent. What place
So
would
I
that pay
think
rent
that's
on?
another
West
reason
Marin?
Nowhere
the right
anymore,
likes this is they can get a specific number and treat people this. Well, it is going to be a function of how many people in the family. I mean, adults are going to get this money.
Adults, and there's another. I have another instance where they're going to pay adults and children.
Well, you'd have a baby boom, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. But you say the right's against it, but
No,
I don't think
didn't say
there
that.
are.
I say they're for it.
oh, they're for it.
Well, yeah, I think it's the problem is
I don't know
Brother-
that they are for
the
it.
Koch
though.
brothers are who finance the Cato Institute.
Cato would be totally
Well,
against us, though.
totally
and so
for it.
Milton,
Cato is
for universal basic income.
I looked at Cato, and they have most of the reasons are in favor. They talk about ending the paternalism of the current system. They talk about this level system significantly reduce poverty. Let's see what they say.
Well, I think it's
they don't like the income. They want to simplify it all. They like the idea that you're going to get the government out. You're going to.
So you're replacing something with this.
Yes, and there's too many, and they might be right. There are too many institutions of government now. It's very fragmented, and to that extent, there is money to be saved.
Right. Well, if the Cato Institute likes it,
I could explain something quickly.
Friedman.
That lends credence to your argument that they will hold the purse strings will be the puppet strings as well. The main thing is they want to do away with Social Security and public welfare.
That I'd not ready to do.
You have to understand something about the history of the Cato Institute.
Social Security is not a government program.
Yes, it is. But
people put their money into that.
Yes, the Social Security Administration is a part of the federal government.
What I'm saying is they don't. It's not an entitlement program, which they want to include it. Which I think that's completely
paid into by us.
So quickly,
it's been used for other things.
To understand that the Cato Institute, for our listeners, named after M. Porcius Cato, I think. Was it Cato the Elder or Cato the Younger?
I thought it was after Peter Sellers Clouseau's valet.
Yeah, exactly. It was named after Cato Kalin. And no, it was a libertarian think tank, but the Koch brothers literally took it over in the 1980s, forced all the libertarians out. And so when you get stuff from the Cato Institute now, it is from the perspective of these kind of statist right-wingers. But I would say, let's go back to the first welfare state in modern history. It was in Germany. It started in Prussia. And I think in the 1870s and 80s, under Bismarck, right? And what it did was
exactly
it created...
what I was going to say, Bismarck.
It created an increasingly compliant and dependent population that didn't have this kind of independence from the state. And you see how that worked out for Germany. Not so good.
Well, the guy who's got a decent income, and this is just gravy, he's not going to be dependent. This isn't going to...
No, exactly.
This isn't going to make it or break it. But
you mean if he already has enough money?
But getting back to the Cato Institute,
right. Okay.
Something I picked up here is that they're talking about it would eliminate all income where are we going to pay for it? He said, even if we eliminate all income transfer programs, the entire edifice of American welfare state, including Social Security, they're saying that's a program. Medicare, Medicaid. What do they want to do? They're talking about eliminating.
Yes. Oh, well, they've always wanted to.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Privatize everything.
Ever since it came in, they've wanted to get rid of Social Security.
But the big argument is that how do you pay for it? There aren't sufficient funds.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean,
there are.
This country, it's a fiat currency. You can print more money if you...
Well, the military is sucking up half of our...
exactly. And quantitative easing, as they call it, which is printing money.
Right, trillions of dollars for banks. But I think, to me, again, it's a problem of... if you want, two visions of America. There was Hamilton's vision, and why he's become some kind of star or hero now is amazing. I'm a big Aaron Burr fan. I'm glad he shot him. Encourage you to read Gore Vidal's book, Burr, actually. Very interesting. But Hamilton had this vision of a massively centralized state with central banks that are going to inject all this credit into the economy so that we can rapidly develop the United States and move west and grow cotton and all that stuff. That's Hamilton's legacy, which is the Federal Reserve Bank and really the model we have. But Jefferson had this other vision, the so-called yeoman farmer, in which if people had some level of economic self-sufficiency, not from the government, but internally within their own lives or within their communities, then they could be good citizens because they could resist what the powerful wanted, and they could vote with their own conscience. So if you put the whole country on life support, how are you going to get people to speak their mind or think for themselves or do whatever? They're just going to do whatever they're directed to do, which is what we do now in many ways.
My point is that you aren't putting the country on life support. The people that are on life support already on life support.
Well, that's a bad word, but I mean, this idea of the state pays you, that's very dangerous. You need to be able to resist the state. And we've done a really bad job of it here in the United States. We have endless wars, as you pointed out. We don't really have much of an anti-war movement anymore. And we've become a society, for a lot of reasons, that's obsessed with sort of individual private concerns. And I don't see how this changes that. I would just say that, And so if you wanted to do this on a local level or think about the ways in which we could deal with housing or food or electricity or water locally, like, we have socialist ideas afoot in Marshall, like having a septic system that serves everybody and is partially publicly financed, and you don't just have to be, well, you do, but
I
you don't.
object to that when people talk about septic systems as being socialist.
This is socialist septic systems? Why is that? Why do you object?
Give us a call, 124-15663-8492. Do you think what are the dangers of a universal basic income? What are the pros and the cons? And do you think poor people deserve it? Because poor people are just lazy, shiftless people.
Yeah, he's looking at me. He's always looking at me.
Who just is that ringing?
I think it is ringing. Do we have it
flashing?
Yeah, it is flashing. I think we have a caller.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please? And keep it clean.
Hey, Martine here.
Martine, hello.
Thanks for this topic. I just wanted to briefly say I read a study about an experiment. Did you already talk about this? Tell me, stop me if it's so. Where they gave people in a certain area, I think it was about $20,000 a year, and the outcome was that people took the opportunity to educate themselves, to get better jobs. They quit jobs that they hated and that were destroying their lives. Basic markers for well-being, health, and psychological, emotional health went way up, and healthcare costs went way down because people weren't so messed up and angry. And so there were a lot of different things that happened, but basically it was all very positive. It's not, the idea that people don't want to work is just ridiculous. We all want to work and contribute.
Well, we want to have meaningful work. The problem we have in this country is there's very little meaningful work. Even very well-paid work is sort of, increasingly
and that's what they did. They took the opportunity to create businesses and get work that was meaningful to them, and therefore the whole community became more harmonious. And so that's my contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martine.
Excellent.
I think there is this big upside. And like I say, you look at what happened in German society, you're looking at, in many cases, the height of Western civilization and philosophy and science and music and art and all of these things. But there was just a dark side to that intrusion of the state into the lives of people, like compulsory education. You could say, well, we created the level of literacy that's never existed in the world. On the other hand, when the state wants to do something nefarious, do people then have people come to overly rely upon it, and then the state gets to kind of do what it wants, or threaten people, to take
the schools away?
Or $20,000 away, or whatever.
They're basically doing that anyway. Right?
Well, that's good. The American school system is a disaster. But
hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
It's Krista, and I'll keep it clean.
I can hardly hear you. You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, let me pull over. Maybe that'll help.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Please.
Good idea.
Pull over into Paul's BMW.
I'll get in Charles's way. That's what I'll do.
Oh, I see.
Hey, by and large, I agree with the fact that most people want to work and be productive and be healthy and be everything else. But there are that faction that doesn't, that just wants to scam the system. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a way to monitor for those that use it for a productive good and those that just want to lay on their ass and eat bonbons all day.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
There is.
Yes, there is, Charles. Just because you do it.
At least they'd be buying bonbons.
Exactly.
They'd be increasing the bonbon market.
And this idea of the needing and the deserving and undeserving poor, right? It's a problem. And who gets to decide?
I'm not saying not deserving. I'm just saying those that scam the system and don't want to be productive. There should be some kind of incentive for them to do that. That makes them want to work. I have personal experience, not for myself because I'm a productive person.
Oh, I see.
But my nephew is a truck driver, and he doesn't want to work at all, so he figures out how he can scam the system by getting disability. Now, is that fair for the rest of us that pay for that?
Right. No, it's not fair. There are always scammers at every level of society, but on the whole, I would say people are mostly fairly honest. Sure, we'll all get away. Doesn't everyone lie on their income tax forms?
Oh,
yes,
I never do.
No,
I never do. Nor do I. And but yes, of course. But I don't think it's at all in my opinion, I don't think it's that all-pervading, and that is, if you're able to help people get a leg up, then the few scammers, okay, that's part of the deal, right? I mean,
they're going to be bad people.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it, but I'm just saying that, maybe we should give those that really need it, and I'm all for supporting those that need it. I do it all the time in little ways that I can.
I could use some money. Would you stop by the station since you're driving?
No, Charles, because you still owe me an apology.
Oh, really? Who is this? Well, I owe so many people an apology that it's
yeah,
really...
I know.
But they have done studies, and they do find...
for them.
They have done studies, and they do find that is not what the typical person does, and they also found that people spend their money on needs. They're not fritting it away, and add to that, they did a study as to welfare and drugs, and they found that it was less than it was insignificant, and they found that in other categories that were not on public assistance, that it was a higher drug use.
Right, it's mostly the well-to-do who are buying drugs.
I'm bringing it up because I think.
Sorry, say that again.
Who funds those studies?
Who funds those studies?
It's a great question, but I mean, I don't think Stephen has it at hand right now. But I mean, it's so anyway. Isn't anyone intrigued? I didn't hear your name when you came on the air. Who is this, and what did I do? Did it need to be apologized?
You'll know who it is as soon as I say it.
Okay, well, that would be helpful. Yes.
Kreta.
Oh, Kreta. Well, I did apologize.
Didn't recognize your voice. That's how bad your phone.
Now, listen here, Kreta. There's nothing wrong with preferring some delicious, nutritious pizza to some greens and lentils. So keep your misery greens.
I can chastise you all I want. It's a free country, right?
Exactly.
I'm doing it.
Well, so and also there are different iterations of the universal basic income in which then it's not universal, but in which the people who need a leg up get a leg up. I mean, it's basically the welfare program. But if you start judging whether people are going to be scammers or if they're going to use the money for bad things, then you're just staying with what we have now. I mean, that's...
But you're misunderstanding me, Paul. And
okay.
And I'm not saying judging. I'm saying, give those that really work for it an incentive, and give those that don't work for it, I don't know, not a penalty, certainly. I lived in Holland for a number of years, and their system is extremely good, and those that want to work, and those that don't want to work don't have to work. But they've got a much smaller population to deal with, and a lot more taxes.
And no defense budget. I think that's a big one.
No defense budget.
I think that's a huge factor.
That's a huge one.
I mean, I just say that I like to see these things locally. I mean, if you go back again 150 years in America, you had the local banks that were financing sewer systems and water systems and electrical systems and all that stuff. We could do it in West Marin, and I think it should be done through taxation. And the idea that I had for Marshall was tax the restaurants in Marshall and create a fund that will we've got a lot of artists that need facilities. I know we had some great ceramicists. I thought, okay, well, maybe they can propose making a ceramic studio, and then a portion of the sales of their ceramics would go back into the fund. And there are all these kind of ways that we could work.
That's a good idea.
Well, of course, it's my idea. How could it be anything else? I
object to it immediately.
We could do this, but I think what we deal with is kind of like we want local libertarianism, leave me and my money alone, and we want federal socialism. Would the government please keep these poor people away from us? And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that by just pay them off wherever they're at, so they don't come looking for my money.
We could declare ourselves the state of Point Reyes, like the state of Jefferson, and secede from the Union.
Well, we need to cut ourselves off from Point Reyes and Marshall, and we need to detonate the highway, and maybe we'll keep the Giacomini's so we can get that cheese. But other than that, it's a new one. And as I say, in Rastafarian cosmology, everything south of Marshall is Babylon.
Thank you, Kreta.
Okay.
I got to do the
talk to you soon.
Thanks very much for calling.
Pizza, Kreta. We need pizza.
Yeah. Drive carefully now.
Yeah.
Thank you to Kreta. So this is KWMR 90.5 FM in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley. And we have the National Weather Service in San Francisco has issued a flood watch for a portion of Western California, including Point Reyes National Seashore, from late Thursday through Saturday morning. Periods of rain, heavy at times, are forecast to fall over the North Bay region. Rainfall totals are forecast to range from 2.5 to 3.5 inches in the North Bay valleys and from 4 to 6 inches in the north.
That's significant.
In the north. I don't know. What does that mean? Tamales?
Mendocino? I don't know.
Roadway and small stream flooding is possible, as well as urban flooding in poorly drained areas. Mud and rock slides are also possible. Moderate rises will likely occur on main stem rivers. During periods of heavy rain, ponding of water on roadways is likely. Monitor later forecasts and be alert for possible flood warnings. Those living in areas prone to flooding should be prepared to take action should flooding develop. And, don't drive through standing water if you don't go and wade through it first to see if there's a big hole washed out. And just be careful. It's going to be a wet one. Perfect day for moving. Anyway, this is KWMR, and this is Let's Talk Call-In Radio. Give us a call, 415-663-8492 or 8317, and tell us your thoughts about a universal basic income, which is basically giving everyone, there's one of the ideas, is to give everyone, regardless of their income, a stipend.
Maybe they've added that into the program, though, to make it so they cannot, so that it'll fail in a sense. I think that's a
what they added what to make it fail?
That the rich and the poor get these payments.
Oh, I mean, to me, there are two ways of looking at the problem we have in this country, which we have a population trained by a school system to do industrial work that does not exist. And then we have a population that for part of their life was able to support themselves doing industrial and manufacturing work that can no longer. So you have this big part of the population. What are you going to do with them? And there's a lot of elites on both the left and the right have this big fear of these people. And so some of them say, well, they just have to be put on a sort of state pension because there's nothing you can do with them. I actually have a view that in the case, say, of Flint, Michigan, in the first decades of the 20th century, people walked, white and black, from the Deep South, a lot from Arkansas and other areas of the Deep South, walked, and it's a 1,000-mile walk. People don't believe that today. Nobody walks 1,000 miles, but they did. If they couldn't find any other form of transportation, they were so poor that it was very difficult to do, to get a job in Flint, Michigan. They'd never done the job. They'd never been to the place. They didn't know what it was. But if you create an opportunity, people will move to it. And so I tend to think of trying to. I think that if there were opportunities for the lost population of the United States, which is really 90% of the population,
it will be.
If you can create real opportunities for them to express dynamism and work hard and learn new things, I think they'll take them. And so I'm much more interested in that.
But then how do you
really?
How do you get there? How do you all that? 1,000 a month or whatever, 500 a month or 1,000 a month would help people to do that. To say there's work in where you're from, Sandusky. There's work in Sandusky at the flour mill. I'm going to go there, and I live in California. Let's go, kids.
Well, I think that's how people. I think that's how most people behave. They heard about something better someplace else, and they keep moving. So we have that frontier mentality. You're supposed to move a little bit further west. The problem is we've run out of west, and so we have to go east now. And lots of people are. I mean, I know of two couples here in Point Reyes, young children who are thinking of moving back east for that very reason. Sure. But what I'd say is just that direct income assistance, direct payments to populace, there may be a role for them, but a Republican representative from Texas proposed a new Homestead Act that if you were on welfare, you could apply to get farmland. And the funny thing is that the Democrats hated this idea. So people don't know how to be farmers and whatever. Well, set up a training program, and the whole idea was you get the farmland, maybe you get some income assistance in this transition. Then after 5 years, if you're successful, you own the land.
Where's the land coming from?
We don't have the Indians to rip that off anymore.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, if you take not a plane, but if you take a train across the West, which I do, that's how I get in and out of California once every 5 years, 7 years when I leave the state. the country's empty, and the federal government has a huge amount of land. But those are specific questions that would have to be answered, and I totally agree with you. I don't know what the answer is off the top of my head. But I say if you create an opportunity, people will learn new things. The fabulous thing about human beings is how adaptable and changeable they are.
But then, so this is supposedly the idea of this is that because there's going to be this vast unemployment in the near future, our children and grandchildren of all the people in West Marin are going to be facing a future in which jobs are going to be very minimal because of automation.
The jobs are there.
AI.
We exported the jobs. There's plenty of jobs. We just decided that we'd go for the cheap labor.
And automation.
But the cheapest labor is automation, which is going to happen.
People made a trade-off. The trade-off was we won't have the opportunity here, but our goods will be inexpensive. That's the trade.
Well, we didn't. The people didn't make that trade-off. I mean, this is the sort of economic trajectory of the United States for the last 50, 60 years. Sure. And
it's coming home to roost now where China can say, oh, really, you want our stuff?
I was in the manufacturing business of clothing. Yeah. The price of clothes dropped by 50%.
Sure.
People don't realize that clothing is very, very inexpensive now, and if you manufacture your clothes in the United States, you could not compete.
Everything I'm wearing now was probably made in a sweatshop. Everything I'm wearing right now. Maybe the Chacos aren't. Those are made by dropouts from Colorado State University or something.
People love to use the word sweatshop.
You installed air conditioners? Is that what you're saying? For the 12-year-olds. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, we exported all of our manufacturing and it lowered the price. But what happened increasingly over the last 45 years is that we have been living to serve economic indexes. It has pushed the value of corporations up. Yeah. It has increased the wealth of the owners of those corporations and the shareholders, increased the dividend to them at the expense of almost everybody else on the planet. And the problem is, in a place like West Marin, and certainly lots of people we all know, is that we know lots of people that are entirely dependent upon their financial assets, their portfolios of shares and bonds and things like that. And so, really, economic change does mean change, and what it means is that those people who've been able to survive on that passive income, then it's not, the idea that we're going to direct the whole global economy to make people that much, a little bit groovier in West Marin, to me is misguided. And it's causing things like...
What are you talking about?
Well, to make the rich a little richer is what I mean. And it's causing...
Wait a second. You don't have to structure it that way. I'm just
saying it is structured that way.
Yeah, but you've just picked a structure that... This is the straw man argument.
Oh, Wall Street is an invention of mine?
So Bertrand Russell, a certain small income sufficient for necessities should be secured for all, whether they work or not. There.
I just think he wasn't contemplating
Martin Luther King as well.
I don't think they were contemplating the risks of creating that kind of dependence on the state.
Well, and that's the argument.
It can go south, is what I'm saying.
That's the argument against welfare and, Social Security, not so much, but welfare for sure.
The idea that we want to create a society in which the bottom doesn't drop out and you have this huge population that is so vulnerable and so poorly treated, I totally agree with that. The question is, how do you ameliorate that, or what do you do about it? And if the answer is the state is just take care of the little people over there, that's kind of the attitude from the coastal California, Silicon Valley.
That's why the model, everybody. Right? Then it's just everybody. Then if you're a U.S. citizen, you get this.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
and your children will get this because they won't have any work.
But here's the other thing: is how then do you deal with the problem of immigration?
That's right. I'm getting out of the buggy business because. I see change.
Well, that happened in Flint, Michigan. It was a big buggy town. It made whip sockets. It was the whip socket, which is a thing that you put your whip in for a buggy. Yeah, right. Capital of the world. But so what I'm saying is, okay, so the other problem is, this is something Milton Friedman definitely said as early as the 60s, was the welfare state and open borders are incompatible. This is something that Democrats and the left do not deal with and are not thinking about. So if you create a universal basic income in the United States, States, which is in excess of what people can realize in, say, Canada or Mexico, you would create a massive immigration problem. So then what people say, well, we need a universal basic income for the world. And then, and who's going to administrate that? Some kind of global government? To me, you get into more problems than you solve.
There are other countries doing it, of course, because they're looking ahead. There's certain African countries that are doing it because they know that all their jobs are going to be gone, except the guys who are actually the farmers. I mean, it's all getting automation. So here's San Francisco, for example. 41.7% of all jobs in San Francisco will be at risk in the near future from automation. Interesting. And Richard Nixon, when he wanted to do sort of a reverse taxation thing, he and Milton Friedman, of course, where when you submitted your tax return, if you were below a certain income level, you get paid by the government. You get paid back you get paid some money to bring you up to that level. He wanted to do that, and he tried it twice. It went through the House twice with huge majorities. Didn't get through the Senate because Democrats wouldn't pass it. They wanted more. They wanted more than just that.
Well, that's
which would have been a real step forward, right? I mean, that would have helped. How many? I mean,
sure. Well, and look
thousands,
at how much
millions of people.
Well, look at how much the political discourse in the country has changed at that time. I mean, Nixon famously, EPA, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, all of this stuff, because in the so-called what's called the post-war settlement was in England and the United States. I don't know so much about continental Europe, but I'm sure it's a similar pattern. Is that we were not going to go back to the economics that created the Great Depression. So there was going to be some interplay between the government, corporations, and the populace and the workforce, in which we were going to ensure that you never had those extreme conditions again. That part of the Republican Party died. The Republican Party was basically taken over by Texas oilmen, or Oklahoma in the case of the Koch brothers, and they really pushed the model that we have now, which is remove all of the controls, remove all of the regulations, and let the markets function. Let the markets do what they do, because they're going to be winners and losers. And for them, income inequality is a good thing, because it's going to inspire people to climb the ladder and all the rest of it. So they wanted a society based on competition and constant insecurity to drive down the price of labor, to increase their own wealth. And we've basically been following on that trend for 40 years.
But we do have a system right now that really there is a disincentive to get a job.
Really?
Yes, for every dollar that you earn outside the welfare system, they take $1 away from your payment.
Oh yeah, well.
If you earn over, $1 over what the limit is, they take your welfare away. They say, "Oh, you're okay, you're fine."
Take $1 for dollar,
and you have to do you have to work at any job. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to take a job.
It's 30 hours a week. And this is welfare to work. This is Bill Clinton, right? Great liberal hero. Right. Welfare to work was 30 hours a week you had to work. And what they do is corporations, if the idea that you're going to get a job with this corporation, work with the federal government and get free labor from those welfare recipients. And then, in theory, they're going to get hired into that corporation. Yeah. It never happens. They've got an endless cycle of essentially slave labor facilitated by the state.
So that is already in existence. So what would be the bad thing if we had another system that just gave people money regardless?
Why don't we ask that question to our listeners?
To our listeners, exactly. 415-663-8492. What are your thoughts about this? About basic income for everybody, where everyone gets let's just say $1,000 a month.
It's interesting how the media is portraying this. I saw something on Facebook. Somebody posted it. They're calling it free money. Do you want free money?
Free money. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of the magic wand problem. When people talk about what the state should do, one, they're not contemplating the history of the state or whether having these mega states is a good thing or a bad thing. I think it isn't. But it's the reality of making something like that happen on the federal level. And I just, if you had a magic wand, sure. But it's we'll see. We have a caller.
We're doing? Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We need to make that light flash more.
Yeah, I know. I miss the old light.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please? And keep it clean.
Paul, this is Marcel.
Hey, Marcel.
Yeah.
Very good program today. You guys are doing very good analysis.
Thank you.
Anyway, I sent my donation last week. I got up late, so the next program after you, I said
Thank you.
Donation. It was just fundraising.
Thank you.
Anyway, Yeah, it's a very good discussion, but I don't see why everyone should get guaranteed income. People earning a load of money, $100,000 a year, what do they need extra money for? And certainly we could do that easily if we had the will to. We'd throw away all this money for the military, to police people and to kill people. So it would not be difficult economically with the money the government takes in.
Right.
But, they got to support the war economy. That's where most of the money goes. But I have a question for you guys to think about. What if people on the bottom, they get this monthly income, and what if they go spend it on, cigarettes, booze?
Hooray!
Doesn't matter.
I think I addressed
games
that.
and they don't have any money left. Now they got to eat and pay the rent. There are a lot of people like that.
That point of view, though, has been addressed.
So I'd like to get you guys' answer to that.
Yeah, okay. Stephen.
Stephen's angry.
No.
No.
That point of view has been addressed, and the studies have indicated that isn't how they spend their money.
Well, I think people should be free to do it, too. I mean,
exactly, There should be. There's no... I don't think in most of the ideas that I've seen, most of the plans I've seen, you spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. And sooner or later, you'll wake up to the fact, okay, I just spent all my money on booze and cigarettes and I still don't have food, or I can't pay for whatever I have to pay for. Right?
I had this problem early this morning. What I'd say is, it looks like if you look at models of addiction, right, the tests on the rat they put in a cage and it can either have food or cocaine, and it just takes cocaine until it dies, it starves to death, whatever. So they did more experiments with that, where they had a nice big cage with things to play on and maybe a lady rat and whatever. And what they found is that people don't sit and do cocaine, or the rat doesn't sit and do cocaine until it dies. I think a lot of this obsession with video games, of the physical satisfaction you get from eating really unhealthy food, from drinking, from smoking, and being addicted to other substances, is a response to despair, a feeling that people have of having no future.
Caller, what's your point of view on that?
Marcel? Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I haven't thought about that. People need to have a purpose in life. That's the main thing. If they don't have any purpose, reason for living, they're going to destroy themselves. But if if they can have a purpose for living, then they'll have incentive to take care of themselves and to use the money more wisely.
I think so, and I think, the thing is, this is not just a problem for the poor. This is a problem we have in West Marin. We experience it differently. We call it living the good life, but in a way, it is a life without meaning.
Don't you think that everyone struggles that way with finding a life without
Sure, but I'm just saying that money itself doesn't necessarily solve this problem.
No.
And that
but it takes a lot of the stress out of your life.
It does, and actually all the things that the poor experience as negative, say being forced to leave your home and go anywhere for work, we experience as, I'm going to work in London for a couple of years because it's cool. I'm going to Tahiti because I like it. So we experience that as the good life. The poor experience that as just surviving, right?
That is so ridiculous.
How is that so ridiculous?
Well, on the one hand, we've got people who are spending their money on cigarettes and booze. On the other hand, we've got people here just dreaming of their trips to London and Paris.
I think it's about how people have a therapeutic approach to life, and they use to give themselves a feeling of stability or control different means. The poor have substance abuse. The rich have substance abuse plus Tahiti.
So, Marcel, what do you think? Should we police what people spend the money on if we do go into this sort of system?
Well, that's the question. How do we police it? We want more of a 1984. We're moving toward that direction with Trump in power and all his henchmen. So we don't want. I don't think we want any more of that. I don't know the answer to that. So maybe you three scholars.
Why do you laugh after you say scholar, Marcel? What's the laughter about? You're laughing at Stephen, right?
Well, you're pretty intelligent.
You can laugh at me
anyway.
Anytime you want.
Well, I think that's a problem, and it's a problem with with welfare. It's a very common thing. Like, if people get food stamps, should they be allowed to buy Coca-Cola?
Should they be allowed to buy steak? Right.
Or
that was actual thing.
Yeah. Or more Cheetos.
Well, that is an argument in favor of this. You end the paternalism
that system. Yeah.
Yeah.
You replace it with another.
Well, you can't buy booze with food stamps, but you can buy Cheetos.
That's right.
But I would just say I don't want to have that kind of control over people's lives. I'd like for people to be more free, and that means more economically secure, but I don't want to tell them what they do with that freedom. No. And so to me, that's a danger. So, I mean, booze and cigarettes, I think definitely. My booze and cigarette budget needs to be subsidized immediately. And Creta and Marcel and any of our callers should come down here immediately.
Well, my thought about it is this. No matter what they give somebody who is, let's talk about the needy, it's insufficient. All these numbers are not sufficient to really raise you out of the poverty level. You can use to augment the money you're earning, and really it's going to be absolutely necessary because the jobs are not necessarily out of a job, but they're degrading the job.
Sure, you make less money. Sure. I mean, it's a nasty cycle. Though, as you say, the clothes are cheaper, but you used to make $25 an hour, now you make $12. But you can still go to Costco and Walmart and consume a lot of stuff. It's just the quality of that stuff is less and less, and it's made by slaves, and all that fun. So it was essentially this system of globalization is how you manage the long-term deindustrialization of the country, and people thought about it. And like I say, I mean, Rumsfeld was the guy who conducted that experiment. His first job in the Nixon administration was to try and figure out if you could do universal basic income because people saw it on the wall. The Republicans saw this coming as a problem. And, we're probably talking about the year 2000, and it's here. I would like to see these things solved on a local democratic level rather than could the big daddy state come in and fix everything.
Well, everything should be at a local level, but that's,
well,
how is that going to happen, for example, in an unincorporated area? Well,
let's bump the next hour. Who's on next anyway? It's probably a robot. Automation, by the way, is putting programmers out of work at KWMR. Is it robot something? What's next? So I'll tell you how it can happen on a local level. These things are possible, but what it involves is actually investment of time and energy by individuals in communities to make them happen. What we have is we don't want to spend time doing it. We like the paternalistic state. We like patriarchy. Why? Because Daddy makes the decisions, and I can get back to planning my trip to Tahiti with Stephen.
You haven't left in 5 years.
7. Oh, the longest I've been on a marshal in 7 years is 2.5 weeks in Mendocino County looking after goats.
So it's a political decision on his part.
That's right. I'm an activist.
Politically poor.
I'm an inactivist.
So, Marcel, thank you very much for your call. We're going to have to go. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, man.
Keep up the good work. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers.
He's talking about my good work?
Yes, exactly.
Relax.
Not too needy.
I'm just kidding. Oh, dear.
Well, sir. There you
what
go.
do you think? Well, Paul, you sort of...
I think it's unavoidable. I think
it's just going to happen anyway.
I think it's going to happen.
But I mean, like I say...
I don't see any other way of... Unless they're going to allow people to starve in the streets and, foment an uprising. I mean, sooner or later, if enough people are dying of starvation because they have no job, there are no jobs, and the population is increasing.
But it's not that the jobs won't be out there. The good jobs... It's not that there just won't be enough jobs. It's that those jobs assembling automobiles, now those jobs have been replaced by robots.
Gone. Yeah. Well, but I'd say with this one phrase that didn't come up, but I'll throw it out there.
Fast food workers. There won't be any of that for college kids. There won't be any. There won't be any of these sort of menial jobs that we think of as sort of a way to
transitional
to make a little money while we.
That's gone.
That's all going.
But that's the
travel agent.
The problem is, oh God. Well,
boy.
Have you ever met a travel agent?
No,
not in 30 years.
Free them to make ceramics.
But I think the bread and circuses problem is the problem.
How about joining circuses? They'll all learn.
When I said bread and circuses, I wasn't suggesting people, but people should join circuses. More circuses.
Quickly, yes.
Just local house cleaning. Laura Marcoux hit by a taxi on vacation. She's in hospital. She's doing okay. But the last show we did, we talked about the virtue of volunteering. Laura Marcoux throws a party at her place on Cyprus, and it's so good that me and Tiger Harland, who was due to board a plane to Mexico, missed his plane, and we talked about Harold Wilson for 2 hours. That's good booze.
4 minutes, and we have a call.
We have a call.
We don't have that much time, actually.
Okay, what are we bumping?
Let's see. Okay, caller, you're on the air. Hello.
Yeah, hi, this is Fred.
Fred.
Hey.
Okay.
Hi.
Happy birthday, Fred.
Thank you. So my calculator couldn't take the amount of digits that it would cost to do this. 300 million people times $12,000 a year is $3.6 trillion. That exceeds the U.S. budget for 2018.
Yeah.
We're already $19 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
So I guess...
Just keep going into debt. Hey.
We can go more into debt.
Dismantle the military-industrial complex? No. You take the money out of the military. You take away welfare programs. You take away Social Security. Put all that money into something else. You take away. You add a flat tax of 33% on everyone's income, and there you go.
We need to do a program, though, on where the money goes in terms of the Pentagon, where that money actually goes.
Yeah.
Well,
abroad.
It's supporting the portfolio of shares that supports a lot of our neighbors.
I'm talking about the people that actually do those jobs, and where those jobs reside, and how those jobs
Colorado
get there.
Springs, California.
And how those jobs get there.
I think we all should just get government jobs. Work for the government, and then we'll all have pensions, and
that will all be automated as well. All this office work is going to be automated. Your job's going to be automated.
Oh dear,
we
Fred.
should all get a job working in the House of Representatives.
There'll be a robot president in 20 years' time.
There basically already is. I mean,
exactly. So, thank you, Fred. We got to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
And yes, this has been Let's Talk for another week.